Good. Okay. I'm calling the Commission City Plan meeting to order Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And we have, I think, a full house here tonight. As far as roll call goes, myself, Steve Mason, Kathy Wazika online, and Horton is here. I do not think Ella Miles is fine. And it's
Regan's online and Dennis
Regan is online. Regan's an alternate. So is Dennis, and so is Jason. I think we decided we're going to seat Dennis Jenkins as a member tonight, and then we'll give us 5. If my math is correct. All right. So that being said, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 18th meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of February 18th, 2026.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second by Dennis.
Is that Dennis?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. So
Yes, sir.
motion and a second. Any discussion regarding the minutes?
And balls and all that stuff.
Who's that?
No,
Okay. Kathy, did you have a question about the minutes?
No, I did not. I was not present, so I'm not going to be voting on that.
Okay. All right. So that being said, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So those minutes have been approved. Dan, you said we have communication regarding some proposed zoning amendments for Montville, and you said there was some for Basra also.
Yeah, we have 2. One, if I can. The first one is from Basra, and it's about, well, actually, Bill Sweeney is here if he wants to speak on it.
Any comments to us about those regulations, Bill?
There's a piece of property on Route 82 on the north side that it's in their highway commercial district. It's a fairly large piece of property, but all the properties on the north side are what we call split zone properties, where the zone line runs right through the middle of the property. The back half of the property is residential, the front half is commercial. Both of them are undeveloped because they're very difficult to develop in that configuration. So we've made an application. I have Mr. Gagnon with RMD Development has purchased one of the properties, and he's looking to extend the highway commercial district into the entirety of the parcel so we can develop it for retail use.
And again, we don't have to take any action on that.
Just information.
And then you said there was also one from Montville.
There's also one from Montville that is mainly about definition additions related to what looks like to mostly plantings and trees and some lighting, parking, with a whole lot of definition.
Nothing that we need to act upon.
Yeah.
All right. Any other communications?
No.
Okay. And old business, I see none. New business, we have public hearing and potential action on the following special permit. Special permit number 26-01, 401 and 409 West Main Street, 128 Maple Street. It's a request for a special permit in accordance with zoning regulation section 4.11 for a proposed auto repair facility with associated site improvements located at the above addresses. Application of Wistonley Alphonse, property of WMST Realty LLC and 409 West Main LLC. Assessors map 109, block 1, lots 4, 5, 6, and it's a general commercial zone. Do we want to have a motion to open a public hearing on this matter?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Dean and a second by Nick to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that being done, Dan, do you have anything you want to present for the applicant?
Nope, we can just have that. They can share their screen and present. Just please state your name, record for the clerk.
Okay, so is there someone here for the applicant who wants to speak?
Yes, this is Tariq Maharan with Core States Group. I live at 5944 Pensby Drive, Aubrey, Texas 76227.
Okay, thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm sharing my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I would just ask if you could kind of zoom into the parts that you're speaking about, because it's in a smaller box on their screen here.
No problem. I'm gonna have it zoomed in as much as possible to show the whole property. It's 401 West Main Street, and I have a Google Earth image in case if anyone wants to see where it's at the Highway 82, which is owned by DOT, Connecticut DOT. I'm going back to my site plan. We're proposing a 15,000 square foot building of Crash Champions Collision Repair. We've started communication with the city a couple of months ago. We've been back and forth with the conceptual site plan layout and started the design of the civil drawings. As you can see here, we're going to have 2 access points to the property, but we received already comments from Connecticut DOT. We're going to have a one-way coming in from the property, and it's going to loop in just with one route. The exit entry will be right here. It's not going to be two-way access. It's going to be just in and out. So we're proposing some parking lot right here for the building and some ADA parking. And in the back, we will have some kind of like a storage parking for some of the vehicles that are going to be repaired. We've been getting some comments with the city, and we received almost all the comments by today. And we're currently working on addressing those comments, and we're planning to resubmit sometime next week. I have some building elevations. I would love to go through those with you all. As you can see here, this is a quick exhibit of the elevations. I am going to zoom in just a little bit in case the screen is too small. So as you can see here, this is the east elevation, the west elevation, the north, and the south. I have the floor plan here, also been shared. Some renderings.
Can I ask what properties this is adjacent to? I couldn't quite figure it out from looking.
Oh, let me go back. I believe we are. I'm gonna try and pull up the businesses on the right side.
Well,
I think on the left side we have some Dream Vape and Smoke. We have a plaza, the Westgate Plaza right here, and on the right side there is Walgreens, and on the adjacent side there is Citigo Norwich, and Chelsea Gorton Bank is right here.
So
And
this is the old Jiffy Lube property?
yes,
Okay.
the Jiffy Lube, yes, sir.
I'm
And
oriented
the
now.
street view right here.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Is that helpful? Any questions so far?
Yeah, no, that's helpful for me.
Of course. I'm gonna go back to my site plan, and I would love to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions at this point? No.
No questions.
Yeah. Kathy, go ahead.
No questions.
Oh,
But you're gonna come back to our next meeting?
The plan is yes, because we have some comments. They're doable. We're working on them with the city, and we're planning to resubmit sometime next week. And we would love to hear any kind of comments. We want to work with the city. We've been already working with Dan. They all have been doing a phenomenal job in responding to us, providing some clarification on the comments, and we're just moving forward. Of course, I know this is a quick hearing, and we were hoping that we can get an answer today, but I totally understand we all have to move forward with the comments and address and make everything comply with the city codes and Connecticut DOT.
Okay, so is it my understanding then that we'll continue the hearing now? Is
Yeah,
there anything else that you want to present tonight, Mr. Mahadan?
That's all I have, the civil plans, the site plan, and the elevations. If any of my colleagues and anybody wants to add anything there, please feel free to state your name, address, and with the company. But yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask then if there's anybody either here at the meeting or online who has any questions or wants to make any comments at this time during the public hearing.
Of course.
Otherwise, if there are none, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing. I don't hear anyone requesting to speak or comment or questions. So in that regard, would somebody want to make a motion to go ahead and continue?
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing.
All right, so
This is
Kathy Rosika made a motion to continue the public hearing. Do we have a second? A second. Second by Nick. Any discussion or comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the hearing, Mr. Mahadan, will be continued to our next meeting, which is April 21st.
Understood.
Okay, at the same time, 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good one. Thank you.
Yep, good night.
Thanks. Have a good
So then the next matter on the agenda is potential action on the following site development applications. Number one is Site Development Plan 1061, 60 Crouch Avenue. Site plan review for a proposed residential multifamily adaptive reuse of a vacant nursing home for 53 dwelling units. It's the application of New London Properties LLC, property of Norwich Senior Realty LLC, map 125, Block 2, Lot 13, Zone R15. And it's my understanding Attorney Sweeney is here to talk to us about this morning.
Yes, thank you, Chairman and Freddie. Tonight, my name is Bill Sweeney. I am a land use attorney and a partner at the law firm of Tobin Carberry down in New London. And it's been a while since I've been up here, but it's awfully nice to be in your presence tonight. As indicated in your agenda, I'm here on behalf of New London Properties LLC. That's a Connecticut limited liability company, which has a contract to purchase the vacant nursing home located at 60 Crouch Avenue, just before you get to Veterans Elementary School in the Laurel Hill section of the city. My client has applied to the commission for a site development plan approval to allow for the adaptive reuse and the renovation of the nursing home into 53 multifamily dwellings subject to site plan review. And as you know, as with any site plan review, tonight you sit in your administrative capacity. And if my client demonstrates that it substantially complies with the requirements of your zoning regulations, which I would submit we do, we are entitled to an approval. Joining me tonight virtually, I have Alan Bongiovanni. Alan is our project land surveyor. I'm going to have him put up our existing condition site plan just to get you familiarized with the project. I also have Peter Springsteel here with me tonight. Peter is the project architect, and he's going to talk a little bit in a couple minutes just about the actual design of the renovation. So at this point, if Alan could share, I think you're authorized, Alan, if you can share your existing condition site plan, so it goes up on the screen for the commission.
Let me, I'm attempting to do that. There we go.
Perfect. Thanks, Alan. As some of you may be aware, the original nursing home facility at the end of Crouch Avenue was constructed in the late 1960s. It was then expanded in the late 1990s with approvals from this commission in 1999. For nearly 50 years, this facility was occupied by a variety of different convalescent care operations. If you've been out there, if you're familiar with the property, you know that the nursing home itself is a two-story masonry building. The building itself encompasses 33,000 square feet. It's served by existing on-site parking to both the west and the east of the building, and it is served by municipal water and sewer. This nursing home was closed by the state of Connecticut in 2020 after a very, very serious COVID-19 outbreak at the facility, and it's remained vacant ever since. In the last 6 or now almost 7 years, numerous parties have attempted efforts to reopen the facility as a nursing home, but these have all failed as prospective operators were denied licensure from the state of Connecticut due to a lack of what the state classifies as a demonstrable need for such an additional facility in the region. So as a result, over the last 5 years, this property has stayed vacant. It has fallen into significant disrepair. It's been the target also of repeated break-ins and vandalism. It is unquestionably a blighted property. It's an attractive nuisance, and it's a site that's become a problem for the city and the surrounding neighborhood. Like so many other similar aging nursing homes throughout the state, the continued use of this facility for convalescent care is just not feasible. The nursing home industry has fallen into very difficult times throughout the country, but especially here in Connecticut. Modernized senior and assisted living facilities with really rich amenity suites have swallowed up much of the private pay aging population, and it's left nursing homes like this one to operate on razor-thin margins and almost completely dependent on state assistance and people who are on state assistance. However, due to the layout of these types of facilities, nursing homes are often well suited for conversion to multifamily housing, which is something that's much needed in this state. Its interior is configured into a series of rooms along central double-stacked corridors, and I know Mr. Springsteel will talk about that in a couple minutes, making really the only viable reuse option a conversion to apartments. The subject property that we're going to talk about tonight, again, 60 Crouch Avenue, it encompasses approximately 10 acres of land, which is quite a bit of land for the city of Norwich. But most of that is extensive forest land to the east of the site behind the nursing home that actually runs all the way through some ravines and up some ledge outcrops to the town of Preston to the east. Today, it's located in your R15 district where multifamily dwellings are not typically permitted. As the commission may recall, because you did a referral for this, back in October, the Norwich Zoning Board of Appeals granted a use variance to allow for the conversion of this nursing home to multifamily dwellings by site development plan approval and subject to the bulk requirements of the MF district. Alan, could you put up the proposed site plan at this point? Perfect, thank you. Our adaptive reuse plan calls for the internal renovation of the nursing home facility without any major modification to the building footprint. We're not modifying the existing parking lots, and we're really not changing the physical infrastructure of the site. Essentially tonight, this site development plan application is a change of use of the existing facility from the former use nursing home to the new use multifamily residences. Mr. Springsteel is going to show you in a few minutes in greater detail. The upper floors of this two-story building will be renovated to create a total of 53 multifamily dwelling units. There's going to be 5 two-bedroom units, 32 one-bedroom units, and 16 studio units. On the lower floor, we're going to have a main entrance vestibule, a mail room, laundry, utility rooms, an elevator, and stairwells leading up to the second floor. Each new dwelling unit is going to be equipped with its own HVAC system, and the condenser units for those are going to be hidden on the back side of the roof, so that's not something that's going to be readily apparent. If you've been out there, you know that the exterior masonry exterior of the building is in pretty good shape, and it's going to remain the same. But we're going to repair the building from the exterior of the building for years of deferred maintenance and neglect. As we are also going to repair the existing parking lots, we're going to reestablish the landscaping that was all around the building. There's a lot of really beautiful mature trees in and around the grounds that we're going to try to maintain to the extent possible. We're really going to try to clean up and make this a presentable site. Right now, all the lighting on the site is building mounted. It's basically naked bulbs, some of them like in wire mesh around them. I know Mr. Springsteel will talk about, we're going to be replacing all of that lighting with wall packs, LED, full cutoff, modern lighting, so that it won't shine into the surrounding neighborhood. So we're really going to upgrade that as well. There is existing parking. We meet or exceed the parking requirements for the conversion. There's over 50 parking spaces there. Right now, we have all the parking we need for the conversion based on your parking requirements. Behind the facility, it's a little bit hard to see here. I'll try to point out for those people in the room. There's an existing gazebo right at that location. That gazebo was used by the nursing home as sort of a client area. It's fallen into some disrepair. Our intent is to restore that. It has grills and other areas for people to congregate. We're going to restore that as an outdoor gathering space. We are also going to establish a new walking trail directly to the north of that with picnic tables and benches to meet our usable recreation area requirements as well. Again, there's a lot of really mature trees, beautiful trees on the property. What we're going to try to do is just try to preserve as many of them as possible, do selective undergrowth cutting to clear that out and create like really a park-like setting behind the building for the enjoyment and the use of residents. The balance of the site is going to remain natural forest, everything to the east, all that white area behind the building. If you've been out there, you look past the parking lot, you know it drops down precipitously into a ravine and then back up a rock outcrop out to Preston. It's not really usable or developable area, so that's going to be kept in its open and natural state. And really, if you look around the site, we have substantial buffers to a lot of the other properties on all sides of us. So at this point, I'd like if Alan could stop sharing and we could put up the architectural plans, if Peter could put those up. And Peter, if you could just introduce yourself to the commission and just talk a little bit, give a very brief overview of sort of their internal renovation plans.
Good evening, Peter Springsteel, Peter J. Springsteel, Architect LLC out of Mystic, Connecticut. Up in the top of the drawing here, you can see a rendering of the front of the building. And as Bill mentioned, we're not really going to change the outside of the building. We're going to clean it up. We're going to replace windows where they need to be replaced. We're inserting through-wall HVAC, which is what you see under the windows here, in the units. And then Bill mentioned some units on the roof. Those units will be for the common areas. So there's only 4 of those. I'm going to push them to the back. So in this view from the road entrance, you won't see those units. This is a sample of our lighting fixture. So it's a full cutoff LED fixture that'll replace the lights that are there now that are very dated and they throw light out everywhere. In the porte cochere, which is a covered roof where you can drive under, there's some existing recessed lighting. We're going to replace those lights as well. And they're down lights, so they're not going to cast light outside of the property at all. So our lighting locations, we have one at each of the entrances of the building at the 2 ends. We have the lighting in the porte cochere. We have some lighting in the back to illuminate sidewalks that we have in the recreational part of the building. And then we have some lights to outside of mechanical areas so that they can be accessed in the evening if necessary. This floor plan here shows you the first floor. The green areas, those are the 2-bedroom units. The blue areas are the studios, and the pink areas are the 1-bedroom units. Most of the units are 1 bedrooms. The building works out very well for renovating to this use. There's a central corridor, that spine that runs down the building in 2 directions. And then we will double load our units off of that corridor. we've taken what was public areas, the kitchen, dining room, recreational areas they had for the convalescent home, and turned most of those into units. But we do have an elevator to get you to the second floor. We have a mailroom and we have laundry right here. The second floor is pretty much a carbon copy with the exception of the back end of the building, because on the first floor, there's a mechanical room here, which we'll maintain. And so on the second floor, that becomes a 2-bedroom unit. So the layout, as you can see, is pretty much identical. Bill mentioned that the building is somewhat dilapidated. It's been vandalized a bit, but this building is built very well, actually. It's a masonry, concrete, steel building. So that is held up very well. And there's a sprinkler system in it, which is required for multifamily use. So that'll be reused. And all in all, the outside of the building needs some sprucing up, but it's not bad. So this is a really good fit for what we're trying to do here. That's the roof plan. You can see there's where the compressors are. They're on the back side. The road is out at the bottom of the sheet here. And this roof line slopes, it's high in the front, low in the back. So those are kind of buried in the back as the roof drops off. These are the elevations of the building. This is the porte cochere where you enter. This is the back of the building, and then these are the two ends. All brick masonry on the outside. We'll maintain that, repoint it where we need to. And I think it's an excellent shell for a reuse type of project. And any other questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Question about the lighting. Is there going to be, you mentioned lights on the building. What about the parking areas? Is there going to be, what kind of lighting is going to be there?
Alan, I don't know if you can answer that one.
We're not actually proposing any new standalone lighting. So all those parking areas were already lit previously by unshielded wall-mounted lighting. So we're replacing that with new lights. We believe that the lights that we're proposing will be sufficient for safety and security of those areas. But we're not trying to put up any light poles that would, particularly because we have neighbors across the street and neighbors next door. We're trying to keep it as low light as possible. Still obviously deal with safety and security, but we're not trying to light this place up like a shopping mall. It's really important to us.
I was just wondering about the lighting for the parking area, obviously for safety purposes.
Right.
So these lights on the building will light up the parking area enough for the tenants to be able to get in and out of their vehicles at night.
Yeah, and particularly, we've got a couple different entrance points, but yeah, particularly to make sure that there's enough lighting for them to get in and out safely.
I think you said 50 parking spaces.
Yeah, so there's 56 existing parking spaces. I believe the demand is 8 for the use. And so we're maintaining the parking sufficient for the requirements under the zoning reg. We put the Alan, could we stop sharing that, and could we put the site plan back up?
And
I think Dennis had a
in the
question.
meantime, I think I saw Dennis Jenkins had a question. Do you want to let him ask his question there, Dan?
Is this going to be a low-income housing?
No, this is a market rate housing. Obviously we've got smaller units in this, so I like to use the terminology. These are attainably priced units. They're for working class people, but there is no income restriction. So it's not low income. There's no low income grants being used. You don't have to only make a certain amount of money to live here. It's nothing like that. It's pure market rate. The market will control rents in this project.
Thank you.
So, to go back to the larger site plan, I want to just point out that from my perspective, the conversion of a former nursing home to multifamily dwellings, particularly in this area of the city, is consistent with the comprehensive plan of conservation and development. If you've been out there, you know that the facility has few immediately adjacent neighbors. but its continued vacancy really creates an eyesore in this sort of dead-end neighborhood. And it really adversely impacts the surrounding neighborhood and has for the last 5 years. Most importantly, though, the adaptive reuse for sites like this for multifamily housing opportunities has been encouraged by the state of Connecticut and our legislature, and it's actually been successfully implemented in countless communities throughout Connecticut. In fact, in most towns, this type of conversion would be permitted under a statutory summary process, which is laid out in a statute that was adopted by the legislature a couple of years ago. But because Norwich derives its zoning authority from special act and not from the actual general statutes, we had to go through a whole bunch of sort of hoops to get to this point. We had to go get a use variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then we're here tonight for a full and formal site plan approval. In connection with this application, I would point out in my application, I noted that because this is really an adaptive reuse, this is not a new development. This is an existing facility that we're changing the use. We have requested waivers of things like your typical bond estimate, drainage calcs, color renderings, formal landscaping and lighting plans, although we're going to show you a landscaping plan that we did for Dan just in the last couple of days, because we're really reusing the existing site. I would also point out, here's the landscaping plan. I'll talk about that in a second. Our project plan has been reviewed by all the city departments and agencies. We responded to those comments to Dan yesterday in full. There was a lot of sort of, I want this note, I want this to be changed. We made all those changes, but there's a couple things I just want to highlight. As Mr. Springfield commented, this building is already sprinklered. And it will remain sprinklered. It was sprinklered as a nursing home. It'll be sprinklered as a multifamily building. We're going to have to update. We're going to have to repair. We're going to have to test that sprinkler system before we get any CO on any unit. But the system's there. It's pre-existing. There was a question the city engineer raised about the wetland that's back in the back sort of portion of the property. Down at the bottom of that ravine, there is a wetland that was mapped by Mr. Snarsky back in '99. It's far away from everything. It's isolated and it's restricted in a sort of a depressional area at the bottom of these two cliffs. We're staying outside of that upland review area. We're not proposing any work in that area. Or even the selective tree clearing we're doing for the walking path and the picnic area, we're keeping outside of that. And for the areas that where there is development within that, we're just reusing existing places. There's no new filling, no new excavation, no grubbing or anything like that. In addition, when we were preparing to submit the site plan, your new zoning regulations went into effect, which modified the requirements for usable recreation space. Today, now under your new regs, recreation space is a function of total acreage of the lot. Well, on a lot like this, where you have 10 acres, we're only using a very small portion of it, but we have to provide usable recreation space on the total acreage of 10 acres. And that requires about an acre of recreation space. So we did need to get a little creative in working with Dan to try to make that work. We have provided that 10% of the lot area, even a little bit more than that on this plan. And again, the regulations don't give us credit for or take into account that literally 80% of the land is going to remain as forest. But we, in addition to that gazebo area at the back of the site, that we're in the walking and the picnic areas that we're developing, we've also designated some of the front areas, the front lawns, as common yards, which is now allowed as part of your calculation under the new regulation. If you've been out there, particularly the one sort of to the farthest to the left, that is a large chunk of green space with some really beautiful mature trees, place where somebody can have a picnic, throw a ball, play with their kids if they have kids. So I think it's a nice area and it's worthy of use for recreation. We did, at the request of Dan, shift our dumpster pad from the previous location just to move it in a little bit of a different direction away from the wetland, but still in the area that's paved. That's the crosshatch section on the plan. There's a lot of sort of old buildings and sheds on the property that were used by the nursing home. We're removing the old freezer, we're removing that. We're taking a lot of that junky sort of outbuilding stuff out. We are preserving, there's a generator that works in the back. We're keeping that for the facility. There's also, there's a sort of a square building in this location right there. Thank you. That building, was a storage and maintenance shed. We're going to convert that for bicycle storage because there's a bicycle requirement now under the regulations. So we're going to have that so residents can actually have a secure area to have their bicycles. Finally, we also added and showed on the plan EV parking spaces. That's a requirement for certain size projects under state statutes now. We have those EV spaces, and those EV chargers will be in that western parking lot, sort of to the left of the building. We have that marked out as well. And then finally, the new regulations require landscaping along the front access strip. And if we can go down, Alan, and just show that landscape plan again, can you just put that up again, do you mind?
Sure.
We just submitted yesterday. It was something we missed. It's in a little line in a section, but we now have, there will be new landscaping, flower beds with ornamentals and shrubs along the entire frontage of the property. So as you come up toward Veteran School, to the left there, you'll have, a beautifully landscaped front to the building as well. Can you get that up? Oh, here we go.
Yep.
We're not getting it over here.
How about now?
We can see it now. Just if you can page down, there you go. So we now have landscape plantings all along the frontage as well. We have a plant list and a call out for those plantings as well. So that'll provide a nice buffer. And again, we're going to be reestablishing all the gardens that right now you can see all the bulbs are coming up in the gardens next to the building through all the leaves and detritus that's been gathered there. But we're going to reestablish those gardens that are already there in the front of the building. So in conclusion tonight, I would ask the commission for approval of our site plan. If I would submit that we meet or exceed the requirements under the zoning regulations, I think your town staff would agree with us. Approval tonight will allow us to move forward and schedule the closing on this property next month and hopefully to begin renovations this year. We're facing a contract deadline. We have to close next month on this property with the current owner, which is an out-of-state company, which has not been the best landlord or the best owner of this property. It's important that we get control of this property as soon as we can, secure it, and be able to move forward. I would just submit, I talked to my client this morning, and he asked me just to share. He's really excited about the project. He's excited. This is a project that's going to literally be in a reinvestment of millions of dollars into an area of town that hasn't seen a lot of reinvestment. He's very excited about that. It's not just the reinvestment into the property, but it's the reinvestment into this neighborhood. And most importantly, though, we're going to clean up a blighted property, an abandoned building. We're going to bring it back into productive reuse. And we're going to provide some quality housing for working class people in this town, which is something that's desperately needed. In my mind, this is a win-win proposition for the city, and I hope we'll have your support tonight. Myself, Mr. Bongiamani, Mr. Springsteel, we're all here if you have any questions. But again, we ask for action tonight if possible.
I just got a question. I assume it has water and sewer there?
Yes, water, sewer, and sprinklers as well.
Okay.
All public utilities.
Anybody else have any questions?
I just have a quick question about the lighting for the parking lots. So, Bill, you said the lighting is going to be on the building, and I know, Frank, you asked this, but I couldn't quite hear what was said. Sure. So the lighting's on the building. It's directed down so that it's shielded.
Right.
So it looks like, though, the parking lot to the west of the building is a little long not to have any lighting. I don't know. Did anybody look at that area?
Sure. Yeah, so there are actual lights along Crouch Avenue in that location.
Okay.
But but the primary light, there's an access point right there. Thank you. Yeah, and that's where the sort of unshielded lights are, and that's where the access point is. Though there'll be a light there that'll light most of the, I would say, the eastern half. You know, it may be a little bit darker on the west side, but we think it's going to be sufficient with the lighting in there. And again, on the south side of the property, there will be lights on the end of the building that will light all the parking as you sweep around. There may be a little bit darker area as you get out near the woods and that drop off, but we're pretty confident that there's sufficient lighting for safety and security. If we find that there's an issue, we'll come back to the commission and get any approvals that are necessary for it. But you know, our feeling is it's still compact of a site that the wall packs will be sufficient.
Dan, what do you think?
We're fine with it for this point. The way the parking lot's laid out and the new lights, we think it'll be sufficient. But like Bill said, if there's an issue, once they're replaced and they're on.
The only place that I could see that there's really, it might be an issue would be out at the edge of the dumpster pad at the far end, just because it's right next to the woods. And there's the trees on this site are 80, 90 feet tall. I mean, these are big trees. So, you know, maybe a reasonable condition of approval or a modification to a site approval would be if there is a need for additional safety or security lighting, that it be reviewed and approved by staff and or the commission. We'd be more than happy to do anything like that. And again, we had basically intended to do this, and then Dan had asked us for a cut sheet on the light, and we just got that to you yesterday.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Dan has a question.
He can unmute. Sure.
How much, I haven't been up there in years. How much space do we have for parking up there?
So the existing site has 56 spaces. And when we're all built out, we're going to have 48. And you say, well, why did we lose 8 parking spaces? A couple reasons. One is we lost some with the new dumpster pad. And then also right now there is parking on the access drive as you move in, as you swing in. The fire marshal asked us to clear that out so that he can get vehicles and people back and forth. So we do have our ADA accessible spaces. We have that on the plan, but we're removing the parking on this sort of crescent drive. So we had to lose some at the fire marshal's request. But again, we meet the requirements under the zoning for the 53 units that we are proposing.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I have another question. So you said you're going to I wrote some notes. You're going to repair the parking lot. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the parking lot is in actually pretty good shape. You know, the asphalt is in good shape. There are some areas that need to be crack filled. And then there's a lot of detritus and, quite frankly, Kathy, there's a lot of garbage and debris. So we're going to have to clean that out. Looking there, when I was out there the other day, there's a catch basin in the back. It's covered in a foot of leaves and other stuff. I'll say just other stuff. It's just people have been using it as a dumping area as well. So when I say repair is we're not going to rip it up. We're not repaving. It doesn't need to be. It's in fine shape. But there are some areas that will be repaired. It's shown on the plan too. The fire marshal asked us to widen a couple areas as well, just for truck access, just for curvature. So we'll be pulling back the grass in a couple areas and giving that curvature, making sure there's a 20-foot wide strip all the way through there. That's when I say repair, that's what I'm in meaning.
One other question. So visitor parking, are you going to have anything or any place available for people to come who want to visit?
So right now,
I know it's not a requirement, but you have to be practical about this.
Sure. So right now, the calculation is 44 total spaces. We're providing 48. We were hoping to keep all 56, but that was whittled down by the fire marshal and then the dumpster move. You know, I don't see any reason why you can't park on Crouch Avenue. There's people who park there now on street for overflow. But again, our mix is primarily 1 bedrooms and studios. You don't see the same level of visitors that you do in 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units. So we have some minimal guest and overflow parking, I think, but I think some of it would have to be on street if there were multiple people coming. I'm leery about providing any more parking because your recreation requirement is so intensive for a large parcel. And I can't go back to the east because literally past the parking lot, it drops off straight. It's a 30-foot drop into the ravine behind. So really, majority of this property is not developable.
Thank
Right.
you. I know you're doing the best you can, and I think that this is a really good reuse of, Emma, I think this is a really good reuse of the property. So,
Yeah, and I know it's not important for the commission's decision, but I would say my client, they're based in Long Island, but they've made substantial investments in Groton and New London. So they have a footprint in southeastern Connecticut. They're investing in particularly older rundown properties and trying to bring them back. So they've done a lot of work in the city of Groton. They've done a lot of work with multifamily in New London, trying to fix up properties. So sort of in their they have an investment here. They're going to be here for a while. So I think that's a positive thing. Again, shouldn't be a part of your decision making, but I think it's important that you understand where they're coming from.
Okay, anybody else? No? You all set, Bill?
I am all set. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dan, any comments from staff?
I'll just run through my memo real quick. So Bill kind of addressed most of the things in my memo already for you. Asked for the added landscaping plan, which has been addressed. So he talked about waivers, and in the new zoning regs, we did away with waivers. So as staff, in my memo, I say what they asked for waivers to, we determine were not needed for the application. So you're good there. That's number 7 here. Relief regarding bond estimates, drainage calcs, colored renderings of elevations, and lighting plans, or they're not necessary. So I do have some recommended approval stipulations. I'd ask to waive the reading of all these, and if someone chooses to make a motion for approval, we could add the note about additional lighting if necessary. I think staff could handle that. I don't really see that needing to come back to the commission if it's 1 or 2 lights. And then suggested reasons conforms to Chapter 6, Section 4.16, and 7.4A of the zoning regulations.
Okay. All right, based on everything we've heard, does somebody want to make a motion in connection with this application?
I'll make a motion, but I'm sorry, but my dog's next to me and making too much noise. So we have to make waivers first.
No, we don't need waivers.
We don't have, okay. Sorry. Then I would make a motion to approve the application with the conditions that are outlined in Dan's memo. And in addition, that additional lighting be added as necessary, not having to come back to the, please stop it, Emma. Not having to come back to the commission, but just having that approved by staff. That's my motion.
Thank you, Kathy. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? A second by Nick. Any comments, discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay. All right, so that sounds like it's a unanimous.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Look forward to hopefully having you at a groundbreaking at some point.
Great.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you, Dan.
Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you too.
Okay, so moving on now to Site Development Plan 1007M parentheses C 555 and 575 99 Norwich Avenue. Site plan modification for proposed improvements related to the approved parking located in the rear of the property, application and property of 555 South Mill LLC and 575 South Mill LLC, Paula O'Neill, Principal, Assessors Map 47, Block 4, Lots 5 and 6, Zone PMR, and Mill Reuse Overlay District. Somebody here to speak in connection with this application?
I am, for the record, Brandon Hanfield, professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut with Yantic River Consultants located in Lebanon. Also on the call or on the meeting with us is Brian McCann with BGT Environmental, our project licensed environmental professional. And we're here tonight to present site modifications. I think this is our fourth round on Panema South Mill located at 555 Norwich Avenue. And if I could, I'll just share my screen to briefly go through what we are proposing. So this is the overall redevelopment layout plan. And what I've done is I've outlined the area that we're proposing to modify. It's the southeast parking that is closest to the existing passway that comes from Route 169 and is adjacent to the Shetucket River. So that what we are proposing to do is in relation to the management of the existing materials that we have on site. I'll let Brian speak to the condition of those materials, but to keep, in summary, we are trying to keep all of the materials and soils that exist on the site and provide volume in order to retain them, cap them, and make the site safe. So what you have outlined in red, this dashed red line, is the limit of an engineered control. And again, Brian can speak more to that, but that control basically is a cap in some manner to, I think, serve two purposes. One, mitigate surface water from penetrating through and getting to the groundwater levels below, which are contaminated or have contamination in certain areas. And the second is to protect the areas from being dug up or excavated. So the soils underneath, we don't want anybody to get to. So before I go into what we are proposing, I'll quickly show you the last plan that we presented to this commission in 2025 as part of another site modification. And what you see is the southeast parking and access was a single bay with a driveway and parking on both sides. And further to the southeast would be the passway that comes from Route 169. In between them was a vegetated embankment. And the entire area, it's in gray and hatched. That was the limit or estimated limit of engineered control at that time. So back to our proposed plan, the engineer control limits are relatively similar. They have expanded east towards the Shetucket River to just behind the existing stone retaining wall that is the embankment of the river. So that would be this limit here on the east. But in general, the south and north and west limits are the same. What we are proposing to do is eliminate the green landscaped embankment that separated this parking bay from the passway. To do that, we're proposing to install 320 feet of retaining wall along the passway. That will give us additional volume behind that wall to retain the soils on site. And then everything above the wall will be paved. And again, that's to provide a barrier from excavation into the soils below. So everything from this line here, the retaining wall, towards the building or to the west will be elevated behind that retaining wall and paved. Below that retaining wall, we still need an engineered control. So the proposal there is to maintain that liner that would be installed below grade. So we can maintain some vegetation along the passway as we originally presented. So everything above paved, everything below will have the liner to achieve our engineered control. So as part of this, because we were paving it, we took a look at the parking configuration, and we were able to add another bay, a single one-way access parallel parking bay along that retaining wall, to increase some of the parking on the site to accommodate the 148 units, in addition to the recently approved Panema Landing restaurant, which is located in the northwest corner here. And that site plan was approved by your commission, I believe, in May of 2025. So all in all, the parking increases. We still meet the regulations in terms of parking. Landscaping, I'll speak to now. We are losing that vegetated embankment, as I described. We can't really have that embankment and achieve the goals of the engineered control. So what we are proposing to do is have the islands will be paved and striped, but the owner and developer is creating raised landscaped planter boxes that will be installed on those landscaped islands to provide some sort of green vegetated areas that will sit on top of the pavement, and those areas can be watered. So those planter boxes would be between the parking bays here, in between the light poles, at the corners, as well as in this area here. And that's pretty much the best we can do while accommodating the environmental concern. This next sheet is just a detailed layout sheet that we submitted. Again, it shows the same thing, but in a little more detail. And you have above the retaining wall is 320 feet long here between the passway and the parking area. Above that would be the paved parking in the single hatch red. And below that in the crosshatch would be the liner approach to providing the engineer control. All in all, I believe we're gaining 23 parking spaces with these parallel spaces on top of that wall. And the last item I'll show before turning it over to questions, this is the grading and drainage plan that we did submit with a little bit of color. You can see the outline of the engineer control in red, the retaining wall in orange, and the elevated grade of the parking area here, which pretty much matches the parking contours that we had on the approved plan. We just extended those to the wall. And below you have the passway, and I believe the highest portion of the wall will be around 12 feet. So we have we grade back down to existing on the south side of that wall and match into where the passway is today. We submitted our stormwater treatment calculations to the engineer for the additional paved area, and the stormwater treatment unit that is on site and will be installed as part of this development is suitable to accommodate the additional paved area and provide treatment in accordance with the 2023 Stormwater Quality Manual. And the drainage system itself can also accommodate that pavement and the bypass within the treatment structure itself. And lastly, this site directly discharges to the Shetucket River. So again, because of the size of the watershed of the Shetucket, we do not attenuate peak flow rates for a site that's immediately adjacent to avoid aligning peak flows. So it's preferable to immediately discharge any storm above the treatment flow to the river rather than hold it and wait for the Shetucket to peak hours later. That is the overall summary of what we're proposing. I can hand it over to Brian McCann, to briefly describe the environmental goals of what we're trying to achieve here, and then turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you. Mr. McCann?
Yes, hi, I'm Brian McCann. I'm a licensed environmental professional with the state of Connecticut. I work with BGT Environmental out in Brutus, Connecticut. I've been involved with the project since approximately midsummer, and I've been the LEP of record with the DEP since October. What necessitated the change in the engineered control? The engineered control is over an area of of contamination that's a little bit different than the rest of the property where asphalt paving or concrete is an appropriate cover. That's your direct exposure criteria. That's essentially the soils that you don't want the people to touch. The area of the engineered control has concentrations of certain compounds which are above the soil to groundwater criteria, which is known as the pollutant mobility criteria. That criteria evaluates if rainwater were to infiltrate through the soil, would that rainwater then pick up the contaminants, bring it down to the groundwater table, and then contaminate the aquifer. So that's why this area is a little bit special. That's an area of a former manufactured gas plant. As Brendan indicated, the original design called for a liner all the way across, but if you've been by the site recently, site redevelopment created some large soil piles, the volume of which I believe more is contaminated than originally thought. It's very cost prohibitive to remove the soil from the property. So our plan was to try to cap as much of the existing soil on site beneath the cap to keep the project financially viable. One of the other issues that they ran into with the original design was the occurrence of shallow bedrock. The nature of the bedrock didn't allow for the vertical profile of the liner. We need to install a passive vapor pipe underneath it because there is contaminated groundwater at the site. And by using this composite asphalt barrier, which we're discussing with the DEP right now, and so that's building side, so west of the retaining wall, will allow us much more area underneath the engineer control to capture in place and cap in place the contaminated soil that's already on site. East of the river, we would be continuing with the liner that was proposed originally because we can't, we're entering that area of the special flood zone. There's also the landscaped area for the nature walk back there, and it's still an appropriate use. And we have much more vertical profile until we hit bedrock. Approximately at the retaining wall is where bedrock is currently at the surface, and then it drops to about 20 feet. So we've got a lot more overburdened soils to work with to install that liner. So that's really the rationale for the changes and what the liner engineer control is designed for.
Thank you, Brian.
Question.
Go ahead. Sorry, Chair.
Does this plan also have to be approved by DEP or DEP?
The engineer control needs to be approved by DEP. They did receive a conditional approval for the previous design, which was just the liner in place. We've been in discussions with DEP and plan on expect to submit a modification to the existing approval in the coming weeks.
And what's the liner composed of?
It's an HDP liner similar to a landfill cap. It meets a permeability rating, which meets the regulations of Connecticut state agencies. So the regulations say it needs to be a permeability of 10 to the -6 centimeters per second. So essentially not letting any water through that liner.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Just one other question to expand on Frank's question. So will that engineering control area be noted in the deed for this, or will there be something on the land records that outlines that this is a land use restricted area? Or
Absolutely, they'll be after the engineered control is installed, after the paving is laid down, we'll be required to submit as-built to the state, and then an environmental use restriction will be placed on the deed, which will have all of these requirements, as well as the financial insurance requirements for the operations and maintenance of the cap.
Any other questions? Anything else you want to address to the commission, Mr. Hanfield?
No, I think we've described what modifications we're proposing. Hopefully they're considered minor, but any further questions, we're here. And if not, we hope we can gain approval and keep moving forward. The building's pretty close and we're trying to get the site to catch up to it.
I have one more question. You had said that there is a 12-foot retaining wall. Is that, can you show me where it is on the plan again? It's right, the orange, right?
Yes, correct.
Or the gold. And is there going to be a fence on that?
Yeah, so I'm proposing a traffic barrier, which would have to go high enough for fall protection as well. So the design of the retaining wall is handled by the contractor. They submit the structural drawings that go with it, but we are requiring that the traffic barrier and fall protection be provided on top of that. So the structural design will have to accommodate whatever, however they choose to do that, whether it be to elevate the wall above, high enough above the parking area to provide both, or provide a guide rail and fence. So it's one of those two options they'll have to do.
So we have no detail on the plan showing what that barrier is then? No.
We do not know. So I left that up to the structural. So on other places of the site, including on the North Mill, on top of this retaining wall here, they constructed a concrete base or cap for the existing retaining wall and put an iron fence on top of it. That similar detail will likely be for Waterford or the Panema Landing on this retaining wall that exists today. So we could see something similar, and I just clicked on everything, so it's going to shut my computer down. I apologize, but yeah, in terms of what those details are, I do not have what that'll look like, but they have been using that black iron rail on other parts of the site, or they'll likely, if they don't do that, they'll elevate the wall high enough to provide the barrier.
But there is a note on the plan that says that you will have a barrier there that will be adequate for safety purposes.
I do. I'm going to see if my computer's caught up yet. It hasn't. I do require that the retaining wall be designed by others with traffic barriers. And as part of that, they prepare those plans and submit it to the building official, who reviews it as part of it. So it's basically got its own building permit issued with it, and the building official makes sure there's adequate fall protection as part of that. And I'm requiring the traffic.
Dennis has a question.
Mr. McCann, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say that the DEP has partially approved this plan?
They approved the initial application, which called for a impermeable liner within the entire area of the dashed orange lines. We're now asking to do a hybrid model where that liner would only exist riverside of the retaining wall, and that we would use a composite asphalt barrier which exceeds the 10 to the minus 6 centimeters per second permeability rating building side of the retaining wall. That's going to allow us to have additional room to cap contaminated soils that are on site, and we're in discussions with them now, but we expect that to be approved.
Okay. What if it isn't?
Then we would have to not be able to have the capacity to incorporate as much of the contaminated soil beneath east of the retaining wall. We would go strictly with the impermeable liner, which is currently approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Dan, you have a memo on this?
Yes, just briefly. We had sent it around to all the different departments. I have no comment from everyone. The original E&S bond from the original approval is sufficient to cover the proposed modification. If someone chooses to make a motion for approval, I'd ask to waive the reading of all these points, but I'll provide them to the clerk for the minutes. And suggested reasons is conforms to zoning section 3.2.d, 3.2.e, chapter 6, and section 7.4a.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody want to make a motion in connection with the application?
I'll make that motion that we approve the application with the conditions as noted in Dan's memo. And if there are any significant changes to the engineering control area, that the plan come back to the commission.
Okay, somebody want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
That's Dennis. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Good.
Thank you very much.
So, Brandon and Mr. McCann, and I guess we'll move on to the next matter on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time.
Okay, I don't see anything under other business or bond reduction. Do we have a staff report tonight, Darren?
I think I'll let you go home. Just a report.
Okay, and the executive session regarding pending litigation is going to be put off to a special meeting?
Yes,
Okay, so we don't need to take that up then.
correct.
All right. Based on all that, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion by Dennis. We got a second somewhere. I see Nick seconding that. So all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. We are.